Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our iOS development using UIKit tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at the UI navigation controller. Now, what is the UI navigation controller? Well, it is a type of view controller that can contain, and does contain, another view controller, and allows us to pop and push other view controllers onto what's called the stack, the navigation stack, so we can navigate back and forth between various screens in our app. Now, the navigation stack acts similarly to a deck of cards, right? So when you want to navigate to a new screen, that view controller for that other screen gets pushed onto the stack. And then when you hit the back button at the top of the screen that you'll typically see, then that will pop that view controller off the stack. It works very similarly to how the stack data structure works. So I would recommend that you read up a little bit on the basics functionality of how the stack data structure works. That way you have an even better understanding about how the navigation controller actually works. Now, there is a whole lot more stuff that you can do with a navigation controller, such as being able to programmatically remove more than one screen from the stack, or that kind of stuff. Change different properties about the navigation controller. You can even just define a navigation controller delegate to define specific things that it can do in that regard. But we're just going to cover the basics in this video, and that is being able to navigate between different screens, and that's it, right? We're going to press a button that's in the center of each view controller and navigate back and forth. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Inside of our scene delegate, we need to wrap our view controller in a UI navigation controller. Because again, a UI navigation controller can contain many view controllers. And the reason why you need to put a view controller inside of this navigation controller is so that way all the navigation stuff can be managed. If it's not within a navigation controller, the navigation controller can't manage transitions and stuff like that. So, let's go ahead and inside of our scene delegate, we're going to say let nav, we're going to call it nav because just to make it simple, or actually no, we're just going to say nav controller, that way it's a little bit clearer, equals UI navigation controller. And inside of the initializer, we need to pass it a root view controller. So the root view controller has to be a subclass of UI view controller. So we can say main VC like that. And then change your Windows root view controller to our nav controller. You can see I've already done this. Now, let's go ahead and go to our view controller, and we need to add a few things. We need to do a few things in that view controller. All right, I'm going to jump to this class's definition. All right. So inside of this view controller, you can see I have a UI button. It is configured to be a bordered prominent button. It's green with white text, and we have a target added to it with an objc annotated method. However, we have nothing in that method yet. And we don't have any title for our screen. Usually in a navigation controller, your view controllers are going to have a title that indicates what the screen is for. So we need to set that title. And this title comes from our UI view controller class that we're subclassing. So what I want you to do is go inside of the viewDidLoad method. And so what we're going to do is we are going to say title equals main screen. So the title property is a string, and we're going to set it to main screen. Now, usually it should, if all goes according to plan, when we run our code now, the title should automatically default to large titles. However, if you would like to, you can explicitly state that you want to prefer those large titles. Otherwise, you can set that to false and have the previous smaller screen titles, navigation titles that we had before iOS 13. But I prefer to have those large titles, and the Human Interface Guidelines recommend that you use them. They nudge you in that direction, but you don't necessarily need to have them. It's not the difference between getting your app on the App Store and not getting it on the App Store. The big thing is to make it feel like it belongs on the platform. That's Apple's big thing with that. But how do we set that then? What property do we need to change? Well, to change this, we need to use the navigation bar property of the navigation controller property of our UI view controller. Now, navigation controller, this property is optional. And the reason why it's optional is because a UI view controller doesn't need to be inside of a navigation controller, right? For so far this series, we haven't been using a UI navigation controller. We have just set our view controller class here as the root view controller of our window, and that's worked fine. It's worked fantastically so far, right? So we didn't have a navigation controller attached to it, so this property would have been nil. But now that we do, it's not going to be nil. So we can say navigation controller dot navigation bar, because each UI navigation controller has a navigation bar, which is of type UI navigation bar. There are many properties you can adjust with this as well. You can change the background of your navigation bar. So if you want your navigation bar to be red, green, blue, yellow, whatever the case might be, you can do that. You can also change the color of the title as well, if you would like. I would recommend reading the documentation for UI Navigation Controller and UI Navigation Bar so you can get an idea of all the many things you can do. Because we're not going to cover everything, right? There's just so much involved here. There's so many different things you can do. It's impossible to cover it all in a single video, or video series for that matter, right? So on the navigation bar object that we have, there is a Boolean property called prefers large titles. So prefers large titles. I'm going to set this to true because I want the large title. All right, so we can save this and let's run it in the simulator. Well, first I want to make sure that it is going to run in the simulator. Okay, activity view, path. Okay, yes, it is going to run in the 15 Pro Max simulator. Good. Yes, I want to replace it. I want to replace the current version running in the simulator. And here it is. So you can see up there at the top, we have our large main screen title. Now, if you said prefers large titles as false, if you set that to false, you would have the smaller title, and that title wouldn't be up in the top left corner of our navigation controller. Rather, it would be at the very top of the screen, right, with some padding and stuff like that beneath the safe area, in the center of the top of the screen in a smaller font. It would still be bolded, but it wouldn't be as heavily bolded as the large titles are. All right. Now, what we want to do is we want to navigate to our second view controller when we tap this button. And we'll do that here in a moment, but first we need to change a few things about the second and third view controller to make them a little bit more unique than they are, because as it stands right now, the second and third view controllers are pretty much the same. They have the same green button with the same white text, the same title for the text, and stuff like that. The second and third view controllers don't even have the target set on the button or anything like that. So we need to go in and change that. So let's go ahead and do that. Go to Xcode. And we will, all right, there we go, Project Navigator. We want, there we go, we want second view controller. All right. So what we want, so the first thing is, let's set the title and prefers large titles. We'll say title equals second screen equals quote second screen. There we go. And then we'll say navigation controller dot navigation bar dot prefers large titles equals true, like so. And now let's go ahead and configure our button here. All right. All right, we'll say button dot add target. We'll say nil for our target. And then our selector is going to be navigate to next screen, like that. And then our control event is going to be touch up inside. All right, there we go. Now let's create that annotated method, but we're not going to put anything inside of it yet. All right, so let's go down to the bottom of our controller. All right, and we'll say at objc private func navigate to next screen, and leave that empty for now. All right, there we go. Now let's go to our third screen. Inside of our toolbar, well, not our toolbar, inside of our navigator. Okay, third view controller Swift. All right. Now, here's where things are going to differ slightly. We don't want to navigate to a different screen, right? We want to, on this screen, we're going to just print something to the console when we tap the button. So we need to change the title of the button, and that's, and then we also need to make sure that the target method and all that stuff are different names. So that way we're not confused and we kind of have a better idea of what we're doing on this particular screen. So let's go ahead and we will we will go above our configure UI method in view did load, and we'll set our title and our prefers large titles. So title equals third screen. All right. And then we'll say navigation controller dot navigation bar dot prefers large titles equals true, like so. All right. Now, let's go ahead and configure our button. All right. So button.configuration.title. We're going to set that equal to all right. So instead of go to next screen, the title of this button is going to be print hello world, let's say. All right, cool. Now let's also change the background color. All right, and we'll say dot system teal for now. All right, and we will, above our adding the button to our view as a subview, we'll say button dot add target. Again, nil for our target. And we'll say selector. The selector is going to be print message. All right. And then we'll say touch up inside. There we go. And so with that, let's go ahead and create our method now. At objc private func print message, like that. And then inside of here, we'll just say print hello world, like that. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and go back to our second and main screen, so we can implement those to navigate to next screen methods that we have. So here, what we'll do is we'll go into our navigator, our project navigator, and we'll start from our second view controller. All right. I'm going to go ahead and also change the background color for our button in here. Okay. We'll change that from green to, let's say, red, just so we have different colors that we're working with. And now let's go down to the bottom of our controller. And now that we're in our navigate to next screen method, to go to the next screen is as simple as telling the current view controller that we're in to present another view controller. So here we need to create an instance of the view controller that we want to navigate to. So in this case, it's going to be third screen or third view controller. So we'll say we'll call it third equals third view controller, and empty initializer there. If you want to, for example, pass some kind of data between the screens, for example, let's say you have a list of something like contacts or products or something like that, and you need to navigate to an add or edit screen. In this example, let's say you want to go to an edit screen so you can edit the data. Well, you have to pass the specific object you want to edit to that next screen so that can handle all of that, right? So you would have a property in the destination view controller for that that you set in the object you create before you present it, so that way you can use it in that other controller. That's how you would pass that data. That's my challenge for you guys, is to figure out how create a few view controllers and pass data between them. All right. This is again another simple challenge, but very fundamental to building iOS apps. All right. So now that we have our object, we can say present third, and we want this to be animated. So we'll put true for the animated parameter. Pretty simple so far. Let's go ahead now and go back to our main view controller. It is, there we go, it's viewcontroller.swift. And let's go down to the bottom here. And we want our navigate to next screen. Again, we need to create an object that represents our destination. So we'll say let second equals second view controller. All right. Then we can say present we want the view controller to present, which is going to be second. And then we want this to be animated as well. All right, so now that we have all of this done, let's go ahead and run our code. Yes, I would like to replace the current running version in the simulator. All right, so here we are inside of our app in the simulator. You can see we have first screen, our main screen right up there. If we tap this button, we went to our next controller. And you can see up there at the top, we have our title. Now, let's go to the next screen again. And now, we're on our third screen. Go ahead and tap this button now. And you can see we don't go anywhere. But if we go into Xcode and we go into our debug console here, debug area, console, we have hello world. All right, so that pretty much does it for this video on the UI navigation controller in UIKit. Remember, my challenge to you in this video is to be able to pass data from one screen to another and potentially back again. This might require that you do some Googling. It might require you to read the documentation a little bit. We'll see how you choose to solve it, right? This is one of the big things about developing software, is that you have to be able to figure out things on your own, go out and Google them and stuff like that. My goal, of course, is to obviously to teach you, but ultimately I do not want you to get trapped in tutorial hell, right? I want you to be able to have the skills and the confidence to be able to build your own stuff. That's why I'm giving you all of these challenges. So thank you all so very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, leave a comment, follow me on Twitter as well, and we'll see you in the next video.